Hola, mi lovelies. This is Corinne Wednesday, also known as the Ashley Corinne, and I'm just making this video um, because I felt like it, and I'm sorry that the lighting is not great, but I don't give a fuck. So I'm making this video about Jesus, actually. Funny enough. Um, and this is something that I've been meaning to make a video about for a while. So Jesus, the one who started Christianity and stuff like that, and if if you study the Gnostic Gospels and stuff like that, the Apocrypha, you understand how he was a very distinct individual. But hold on, sorry, pardon me. But I'm making this video almost in response, not necessarily in response, but almost in response to Richard Carrier, who, and I'm talking to you, Doc, and I'm talking to you, Michael. If you're not familiar with Richard Carrier, he's a proponent of the idea that Jesus never actually existed, and I disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. And Richard Carrier is he's an academic and I'm not, and so he could be correct on a lot of things, but it's like I'm saying, look up a lot of his research, because it's very profound in my opinion. But I just want to lay out, very briefly, the case that I believe that Jesus actually existed. And it's not because I'm a Christian. If you're watching this, if you don't know my history, if you don't know how I think about Jesus, then, I am not a Christian. I was at one point in my life, but I'm not anymore. But the story of Yeshua ben Joseph, um, which was his real name, uh, it makes sense because he stood up against the Roman Empire and he was killed, which historically makes sense. But yeah, Richard Carrier. And I'll link, and for anyone who's watching, I'll link some Richard Carrier, or at least one Richard Carrier video um downstairs, down in the description, down in the descripto. Because this is, there, and like I said, Richard Carrier and other people make, and there's also this isn't by Richard Carrier, but there's also a documentary called "The God Who Wasn't There" that lays out, a good case that Jesus was actually just a mythologized character instead of an actual person. But having grown up in the church and having grown up and read the New Testament, it sounds like something that actually happened, and it actually comports with history. Because I grew up Mormon, and and I'm also a writer, and so one of the major things that you know that got me to the point where I'm like, the Book of Mormon is fake, is I was reading it as a fiction writer. And I was like, dude, this is fiction. You know, it's made up. First of all, Joseph Smith wasn't a great writer. And second of all, he wasn't a great writer. You know, he recycles character archetypes and blah 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 blah. And he just rehashes material all the time. But the New Testament, at least, and of course, see, you know, it's always a mix of mythology and folklore and whatnot. But it's like, you know, I'm convinced that Jesus actually existed, that he was an actual person, that he was an actual, you know, rebel rabbi, as it were. And that's not saying that what he taught was good. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. I believe there was a guy named Yeshua or Yahshua ben Joseph who was scourged and crucified by the Roman Empire. Historically, it makes sense to me. But anyways, that's my video. But I also want to make a couple of shout outs. I want to shout out to fucking Meg Myers. I also want to fucking give a shout out to Macaulay Culkin. Fucking keep it real, bro. I also want to fucking give a shout out to Shaquille O'Neal. And Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs lives. And I want to give a shout out to Pepsi. And to Coca-Cola. That's how much of a fucking rebel I am. Anyways, this is done. I'm just spurting random shit at this point. But no, okay. This is the way it is. Never mind, I forgot.